Okay, it looks like we're live. Can somebody confirm that? Hi, Mystery Man from Littleton, Colorado. Hi, Darren Bennett. Hi, Inanimate Carbon God. How is everybody on this wonderful New Year's Eve when we're going to just shoot the shit until 2024 arrives? So, yep. Hi, Heather and Damien. How you guys going? Hi, Darren. Winter's picking up here in Brisbane. Looks like a damp fireworks tonight. Okay, yeah. Brisbane's been getting some weird weather, hasn't it? And we've all been getting weird weather, come to think of it. But before we start anything, I'll do this. Hi, Echoes. How you doing? I'll do this first. If you have a look down here, if I can get the camera right, we've got Luna in the house, just looking after the desk there. She's still got her cone on, and she's kind of half sleeping. But she's definitely a part of things, and she probably will be for the entire live stream. But I'll put the camera back if I don't screw things up, and I'll have to readjust it now because that's how it works, and that's more or less right. Let's see if we can get it just the way I want it. Yeah, hi Dick Powers, how you doing? Hi Ian. Hi Bent Ed. Yeah, hi Cap Captor, how you doing? Yeah, so I've just got to adjust this stupid camera thing. Should never have moved it. Hang on. And now it's gone west. That's going to have to do. There we go. I think we've got it now. Hi Chris, how you doing? Yeah, so yeah. Hi Tim, how you doing, man? You're checking in from your car. I hope you're not driving, because that would be bad. But yeah, so we've got lots and lots of stuff. Got the plans for January for the channel, which are going to be a bit different. I'm going to challenge myself in January. We've got a list of all the stuff going into public domain in 2024. We've got stuff I've been watching, and we've got 2023 in review. So there's lots of them. Hi Keith F. How you doing? Hi Evil Pixie 96. Morecambe and Haysham. We've been to Morecambe. Middle Aged Geek Girl and I went to Morecambe in 2004, and we saw the wonderful statue of Eric Morecambe there. So great. Dick Powers, you're cooking New Year's Eve roast dinner. Great. Now, time for a drink. This one's actually an Italian spritz, which is like an Aperol spritz but without the booze. And yeah, so I needed that. So we've had a very quiet holiday time with Luna being unwell, and we needed to really take care of her, and it was really quite upsetting for us as well. So hi Grant McGowan. Hi Alistair, how you going? Alistair's on the slow side of the world and committed to chores and errands. Can only say Happy New Year all and look forward to the next video on live stream. Thanks, Alistair. Whatever you can contribute and just being a part of it means a lot to us. So yeah, what's the medallion? That is my Eye of Agamotto Doctor Strange medallion. I don't have one of the glowing ones. I wouldn't mind one, but this one's really heavy, and I just thought I'd wear it to decorate things up. I've got the disco lights in the background, so everything's fine. Yeah, Damien, Luna. Oh, hi. We have got Morris here as well. See Here podcast. Yep. So yeah, Luna's doing okay. Yeah, Evil Pixie. Happy New Year so far from Germany. Yep. Ian Burns has a Prince Planet medallion. I'm jealous. To be honest with you, Ian, I'm totally jealous. I'm an enormous Prince Planet fan. When we were in Japan in 2019, we went up to Mandarake in Nakano Broadway, and they had a Prince Planet tin toy, which was out of my budget, and I'm still kicking myself for not getting it. Hi, D. Lee. Hi, Kyle. We've been to Seattle as well. Well, I have. But yeah, so lots and lots of things. Yes. I've just gone totally blank there, which is not good. Time for another non-alcoholic cocktail. Yeah, so I did one of my 2 New Year's Eve rituals today. Usually I watch Get Crazy, the wonderful Alan Arkush movie about New Year's Eve in a concert hall, which is fantastic. And I didn't watch that this time because my copy of Get Crazy is in a big stack of movies I've got because we're changing the shelving over. I've got proper DVD and Blu-ray shelving that I've got to assemble with the help of Middle-Aged Geek Girl. And so we took down the old IKEA ones and I've repurposed them here in the man cave over that side. And so we're going to be putting them in. But in the meantime, I've got an enormous stack of discs that I've got to work on. But yeah, middle-aged good girl says, yeah, Luna's okay. She still has some tissues in the middle of a wound, as it isn't healing as fast as we'd like. That's true. Gamer Trojan, Happy New Year from Ireland. Let us know if 2024 is worth moving to or whether we should just stay in 2023. You've got to continually move on. I will let you know, and I'll just reassure you that 2024 is going to be fine. We had a pretty rotten 2023 in various ways. Not anything to do with the channel, but just life stuff. And it's been pretty hard in some ways. But on the other hand, I'm always optimistic on New Year's Eve. It's a time when you get another chance to start things over. And yes, it's entirely arbitrary and it's entirely an imaginary thing that we think up to reassure ourselves. But I like the sense of closure on the past and being optimistic and making plans for the future. That's what I like about this time of year. Don't like the fireworks necessarily because we've got cats, but I do like that idea that it's an opportunity, if you choose to accept it, to be optimistic about the future. But yeah, so 2023, mad year. We had the writer's strike, the actor's strike in America. We had a whole bunch of physical media stuff happening with Disney closing down business in Australia for making discs. And the future is not necessarily looking bright on that side either. But we will. Hi, Doug. But we'll just forward on. Yep, and middle-aged geek girl was finally diagnosed as neurodivergent, which is a big thing because it enables her to just understand herself a lot better. And Darren says, "Welcome to the spectrum, middle-aged geek girl." Yep, and hate the noise of the fireworks. Love looking at them, though, says middle-aged geek girl. And Mystery Man says, "Can't wait to put 23 behind us. I'm very optimistic about 24." You've got to be optimistic. I think that you've really got to, if you're moving through your life, you've got to assume that in some way, even if you only becomes a bit wiser, the next year is going to be just that little bit better for you. And I think that's a really important thing to hold on to, particularly when you're going through a hard time. And I'm going to adjust this by adjusting the monitor it's sitting on. Yeah, so lots and lots of weird and wonderful things, and times change. And some people have a better time of that than others. And some people manage it better than others. And each of us manages it differently depending on where we are at a particular moment. Kyle says, "Get Crazy is funny, and I love the scene at the end with Lou Reed serenading Stacey Nelkin." It is Stacey Nelkin, by the way. Yeah, it is a nice moment at the end. And Damien says, "Happy New Year, Terry and Sally from Heather. Damien's phone is hard to navigate and find the icons." Hi, Heather. Yeah, sometimes every time I use middle-aged geek girl's phone, I can never work my way through it because she's got fancy icons for everything, and I have mine arranged differently than hers. So if I use her phone, it's always like, where is something? So I totally understand where you're coming from. Middle-aged geek girl says, "Pretty icons in order," because she has ADHD amongst other things, and so she has to have things a certain way. D. Lee says, "If you see any winning lottery numbers or sports results when you enter the future, let us know." I will as soon as I put a bet on. Hi, Brett. Today's your wife's 64th birthday, but she's in birthday now. Happy birthday to Brett's wife, and I hope she has a lot more of them. And I hope Brett treats her wonderfully for her birthday. You've got to keep them in order. Now we're talking about icons on phones. Doug Sims, thank you very much for that donation towards Luna's bill. Really appreciate it, mate. And all super chats are going towards Luna's bills. We've got another couple of medical things for her, but anything people could contribute if you are able to, if you're inclined to, we'd really appreciate. Did I see Oppenheimer? Okay, yeah, I did. I did the Barbenheimer thing where I saw Barbie one day and then I saw Oppenheimer the next because I don't think seeing both of them in the same day would have messed with my head. But seeing them in subsequent days and being part of Oppenheimer and Barbenheimer was a nice thing. I really enjoyed doing that. And I saw it at the nice cinema with the reclining seats. So I definitely did that. Yep. But Keith F says, I'm usually watching your live streams on a mobile phone, but because of the time of day, I'm watching on the PC. So my head is enormous today. My head's always enormous. I have to adjust the straps on every hat I buy because my head's enormous, because there's a lot of movie knowledge to hold in it. But I did get a couple of bits of interesting news, which I'm going to share with you. And I'm going to post this link on the chat, but I don't want you to look at it now. I want you to look at it later. And there's a link here to a really weird thing, which is there's a cinema on the Upper East Side of New York City where they're showing, it says they're showing Ratatouille. And the problem is that the AMC Orpheum Cinema in the Upper East Side of New York is rat infested. It's basically gone Willard, and people are going to see the movies and finding rats on the stairs and rats in the popcorn on the floor and rats everywhere. And I just thought, I've only ever encountered cockroaches and drunk people in cinemas. I've never actually had one go totally Pied Piper on me. And I have gone past that cinema once when I was in New York, went past the AMC Orpheum in the Upper East Side. But the idea of going to a cinema that's rat infested has to be a setup for a really gory horror movie. It's a bit like Demons, the Lucio Fulci movie. But I'm just reading the chat now. Hi, Carol Bird. Hi, Terry. First time live streamer. Sending you our best wishes for New Year and get well soon, Luna. Thank you. Luna is just laying here having dreams because her little legs are twitching. Yep. And hi, Jamie Adams. Yep. All the best to New Year. Thank you very much. And Damien says, we had a pet rat got loose in a cinema in Perth once. Yeah, Demons was Lamberto Bava. I realized that after I said it, but thank you, Inanimate Carbon God. But yeah, a rat infested cinema in New York City. When I first went to New York, I was getting taken out to a restaurant for dinner, and we were on the Upper West Side. And I stepped on a dead rat in the middle of the street crossing the road, which was like the top New York experience of the time in the late 1990s. And people just went, yeah, it's New York. But yeah, rats are all over the place in New York. They got nearly as many rats as they have real estate agents there. Darren Bennett says there's a scene in a James Herbert novel where giant rats attack a cinema in London after a nuke goes off. Fair enough. And see here podcast, that's Morris says, is that like the Tingler getting loose in the cinema? No, it's worse because the Tingler can only attack one person at a time, but rats can attack many, many more. And middle-aged geek girl says, hit the like button. Yeah, Timothy, it was Lamberto Bava. It's not midnight here yet, but there's a footy oval across the road, so I'm just waiting for the bogans to set off fireworks, says Angela. Hi, Angela. We don't have that. We have them set them off in our street. So there's a house about 5 houses down where the guys get illegal fireworks from Chinese supermarkets and go nuts on them. And they are very upsetting to the cats. Though, to be fair, Luna is not fazed by this stuff. Luna is great. It can be in the middle of a thunderstorm with lightning and thunder everywhere, and she'll just want to go out and play in it. She is a mad, bold cat who unfortunately got a bit too mad and bold recently. Yep, there is a tingler in each one of us, Keith. And my tingler is feeling very mellow at the moment, so I'm very happy about that. Brett says, had a rat moment in the last time I mowed the lawn. Oh, yuck. Yeah, I should do the tingler for the channel. I'm not sure whether I have, but if I have, I'll do it again. I don't care. So I'm going to write down the tingler because I've got a very nice pen and I've got a good copy of the tingler on Blu-ray. I've got another William Castle movie that I could put with it. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I can do a double feature of that. But it'll probably be February when I do that at the very earliest. Timothy is inside grabbing bagels now, which I take is not a euphemism. Alpha Wolf, hi, how you doing? Thanks for coming along. Luna's just woken up and is wondering what the hell I'm doing. And she's got the cone on. And because the food gets stuck in the cone when she eats, she spends half of the time licking the food off the inside of her cone. And it says, Lila has just faced a very large catwalk down the road outside our house about 30 minutes ago. Can I do a Vincent Price screen for your lives when you do a video on the tingle? Yeah, I can. Thanks for that one, Morris. I'll do that. Ian Burns says, my kitten Ebony passed away in October at the age of 22. I hope to get a pair of female kittens this year. Sorry to hear that, Ian. It is tough when a pet dies. Our cat, Jack, died, and we were racked about it, and to a certain extent still are. They mattered to us. Luna's just sitting up now. So she may appear at the bottom of the screen at some stage as she clambers across my keyboard and sheds fur all over it. Echo says, I have to prepare a few things for New Year's Eve. Bye. See you in 2024. Thanks, Echoes. Thanks for coming along. Stay warm in Germany. And I appreciate the support of the channel. Really, really appreciate everybody's support. So how many people have we got in the chat at the moment? 43. That's enormous. 43 is enormous. Chris says, can I review Hobo with a Shotgun this year? I'm going to write that down because I do have the umbrella of Hobo with a Shotgun. I picked it up cheaply not too long ago. And I wanted to get it before they ran out of copies of it. But Umbrella's Blu-ray of Hobo with a Shotgun is quite good. Cinema Dave, how you doing? Happy New Year. Not Happy New Year yet, Dave. We still got 43 minutes, but I appreciate that. People should go and look at Cinema Dave Media's channel when they get a chance. He's got a lot of good videos there. He does a weekly live stream with movie chatter Stephanie, and they do good stuff. He's a little bit obsessed with Peter Falk, but he's a really nice guy. Cats come part of the family in all weird ways, Damien. Yeah, absolutely. We need William Castle gimmicks for the return to cinema. I kind of don't think you need gimmicks in cinemas. I always find them a distraction. The only thing I really liked, I got a scratch and sniff card once when I saw a John Waters movie. There was a smell-o-rama thing, and I didn't mind that. But most gimmicks I find distracting. Morris says, you can't be too obsessed with Peter Falk. I love Peter Falk singing. Peter Falk sings in Robin and the Seven Hoods, which I love. And he also sings in The Cheap Detective, which I'm going to do for the channel. I've actually got to write that down because I saw a bit of it the other day. But if you want to see The Cheap Detective, which is a pastiche of Casablanca with Peter Falk and a really big cast of fantastic actors. And Damien says you can't get enough of Peter Falk. D. Lee says all the right people seem to dislike Barbie. I like Barbie. I thought Barbie was great. A lot of people don't like it. Fair enough. Different opinions, different people. But I enjoyed Barbie. And I haven't seen a Greta Gerwig movie I didn't enjoy. Let's have a look. We need good, interesting films to return to. Godzilla -1 would be the one I would suggest for that Game of Trojan. Morris says, haven't seen The Cheap Detective since it was first run in cinema. It's great. I love what I'd suggest, if you're going to watch The Cheap Detective, which I recommend you do, watch Casablanca and then The Cheap Detective as a double feature, because there are so many great pastiches of bits in Casablanca, particularly the bit where all of the French refugees sing La Marseillaise. is a great pastiche of that bit in The Cheap Detective, which I love. Funny Peter Falk being mentioned. I was just reading his Just One More Thing. Yeah, I won't get a football reference because I don't like football. So I've already got 3 things to do for future videos. This live stream is paying for itself. Falk is great in the Great Race. Yeah, he is indeed. Man, IKD says, is it 1KD or IKD? IKD says, I love Godzilla Minus One. So did I. The moment the Blu-ray comes out, I'm getting it because I really want to have a Blu-ray or a 4K of Godzilla Minus One. We've got a whole bunch of Godzilla movies, including the Monarch verse ones. But I think that is something extraordinary. It took something that people were already familiar with, and to be honest, some people were a bit over, and totally reinvented and retconned it and did such a fantastic job of it. Gamma Trojan says, it's both good and bad the amount of 30, 40, 50-year anniversary reruns they're doing here. The bad being, where did all the years go? Yeah, Cinema Dave actually went to the cinema for the first time in a long time to see Godzilla Minus One. But yeah, I think some things they're doing the 50-year ones because it's a copyright thing. If they re-release something 50 years after it's released, it actually extends the length of the copyright, which is crazy. But these are suits we're talking about, so crazy is what they do. Brett says it's not football, it's life. Luna, what are you doing? Hang on, she's grabbing everything off the desk here to play with. So I've got to give her a toy. And a toy is a bamboo toothbrush. Luna, you want a bamboo toothbrush? So now she's chewing on a bamboo toothbrush. Falk playing himself sort of in Wings of Desire is the best ever. Yeah, I'm going to have to rewatch Wings of Desire at some stage because I really love it. And I love the look of it as well. But Peter Falk, really interesting. Doug says, recently rewatched Blind Fury with Rutger Hauer, directed by Philip Noyce. It was good fun. Yeah, it's a remake of Zatoichi, the Japanese one, which has had a number of remakes itself. D. Lee says, I had a pigeon loose in the cinema earlier this year. It was there for the whole film, Gold Diggers of 1933, and added shadows to the musical numbers. That's great. I love that. Hey, Janet. Hey there, Terry, middle-aged geek girl and tough kitten Luna. Just wanted to say I grew up in Peter Falk's hometown, Ossining, New York, and later had him in my art school sketch class. Fantastic. I know he was a good artist because I've seen some of his art, and that was one of his passions later in life, particularly. But yeah, I like um, Peter Falk's art. I like the fact that he was an artist. That's like the joke, what's black and white and has 3 eyes? Denzel Washington and Peter Falk. But Keith F says, Damien says, Warner Archive Collection are bringing out some interesting titles. Yeah, but they're crazy expensive here. Keith F says, read Peter Falk, only recently did I learn that he was not the first actor to play Columbo. I believe that was Bert Freed many years earlier. That's what I've heard as well. I haven't seen the Bert Freed one, but I like the fact that they gave him another chance as a character. Brett says, as of tomorrow, Mickey Mouse becomes, as per the original version, becomes available to all. Yeah, I'm going to do a bit about public domain stuff, Brett, so hold that thought. That's one of the things I've got on my list. But yeah, 2023, how many movies did I watch? I'll bring up my letterbox. And by the way, I'm going to give you the link to my letterbox for 2024 that I've just started. All up, I didn't watch that many movies, 297. And I just finished one about an hour and a half ago. But 297 in a year. A lot of them were rewatches, but there were a lot of new things I watched, which I loved. And also there are some favorites I revisited. New things like Demons. I did see Lamberto Bava's Demons. And Demons 2. I watched those. I saw The Menu and Triangle of Sadness. I saw a thing called The Pale Blue Eye with Christian Bale in it, which was made for Netflix, which is kind of okay. And there were things like Megan came out, which I loved. And people didn't like Damien Chazelle's Babylon, but I liked it. Wakanda Forever came out. Let's have a look. I'm just going down through my letterbox list. I rewatched Bullet. I rewatched Weekend at Bernie's. I rewatched both French Connection movies. What else we got? Watermelon Man. Let It Ride. I saw for the first time. That's an interesting Richard Dreyfuss movie. That's a lot of fun. I got introduced to the Terrifier movies, which I enjoyed. Rewatched a movie that I know Morris likes a lot, Ice Cold in Alex. So many films here. And the thing I watched just before I came on to the live stream was a movie called It's a Wonderful Knife, which is basically a retelling of It's a Wonderful Life with a serial killer stalking a town. I'm not going to tell you any more about it. Go into a cold. You'll have a nice time with that. It's not the best movie ever, but it is a bit of fun. It's a Wonderful Knife. Let's have a look here. Apparently, Bing Crosby was off of Columbo. Yeah, well, Bing Crosby beat up his kid, so to hell with Bing Crosby. Kyle says, Damon McGarry just picked up Tarzan of the Apes, hoping they go on to Tarzan and his mate. The rest I can live without. And Heather says, Apple TV has a list of movies released 10, 20, 25 years ago. Great to just go through and tick them off. Most at least you have to pay to watch, but we had fun seeing which ones we have. Yeah, Megan was awesome, Middle Age Good Girls. That's Darren says, have to save up my pennies for the 4K Criterion of Wings of Desire. Don't tell me that I may have to buy it. Yeah, Morris loves Ice Cold in Alex. By the way, guys, Damien and Darren, you're talking about Tarzan movies. I'm doing 2 Tarzan movies in February on the channel. And I shouldn't have made that gesture because it's just moved the camera. Because, let me see if I can get rid of that. Okay, hopefully that didn't mess up the video. Yeah, Janet, it's a wonderful knife. Go in with your expectations fairly low, but it's kind of cool and I enjoyed it. Ian says, I rewatched Medieval from 1981, post-apocalyptic French film. Recently, maybe covers some more old end-of-the-world movies in 2024. It's possible. I've got a lot of video time to do, man. Doug says, I have a New Year tradition. I revisit some of my favorite movies from the 40s and 50s, like Harvey, Arsenic, and Old Lace. It connects me to my late grandfather who introduced me to movies. I can see that. That's why I keep watching Move Over Darling, the Doris Day movie with James Garner, because it's the movie my mother first took me to at a cinema. It was the Regent Cinema in Sydney, and I recently found the ad for that movie in that cinema in Sydney. Evil Pixie 96 is a couple of good Rutger Hauer movies. Wedlock and Split Second, both a lot of fun. I've seen them. I saw them back in VHS days. I suspect that Rutger Hauer's action films are going to get a little bit of a revival in the next 5 years or so. I've just got a feeling about that. Yeah, Heather, the danger of jazz hands. Morris says, have I done a video on selection of Ealing films? I've done individual Ealing films. I did Passport to Pimlico and a few others, but nothing like streamed as that. Brett says, I watched 193 films not seen before. That's a good effort. Great. I'll tell you, let's see, I'll go through the chat and then I'll tell you what I'm doing for January. David says, there's a shame about the loss of online stores in Australia and UK. It is. So many good stores like Network just have disappeared. Ben had said, I saw The Creator, Renfield, La Samurai, and Theatre Camp. Doug says, I love Move Over Darling. James Garner is so underrated. He is. D. says, Godzilla -1 is a 4-course meal compared to Legendary's Godzilla Burg. But the latter are still fun. Yeah, they're fun. Okay, January. Here's the challenge I've set myself for January 2024. It's stupid because all challenges like this on YouTube channels are innately stupid. I'm going to watch 31 movies I've never seen before on the 31 days of January. Now, I won't be doing 31 videos, because that's a little too much work with the editing and uploading of things. But I will watch 31 movies I've never seen before in January, and I'll review them. If I get any review copies I've got to cover from Imprint or Umbrella, I'll add them onto that, unless they're movies I haven't seen before. So that's the challenge I've got for January, to watch only, well, predominantly, with the exception of review copies, movies I have not seen before, and I've got to watch at least 31 of them. The first one I've already picked out. I haven't seen this, and I picked up a copy of it for $1. I've still got the sticker on it. Got to watch The City of Lost Children. Jeunet and Caro's The City of Lost Children, which I haven't seen. So I'm going to watch that as the first movie of 2024. I've got a few others I've got here, and I've got a whole bunch I've got on hard disk that I wanted to watch. And so that's the challenge. 31 new movies. I'm going to cleanse the palate and not just watch comfort films for January 2024. D. Lee says Godzilla -1 is a fork. I've seen that one. Grant McGowan says shame about network. They just disappear without any real warning. Absolutely. D. Lee says I like Barbie too. All the right people hating it means the usual bunch of misogynists. I agree. Yeah, Morris, City of Lost Children, I hear great things about. But yeah, Damien, interesting first choice. I thought I'd start off with something kind of iconic and lateral, and so that's the plan for that. Cinema Dave Media says that's a great challenge. Yeah, we'll see how we go. I'm determined to do it, and I've got to be very firm with myself. Our car's in repair for 2 weeks in January, so I'm trapped at home more or less for a part of that. So it's going to make the challenge just that little bit easier. And I may well do something like watch 2 movies a day and get all of the first viewing movies out of the way. And then I can watch whatever I like for the rest of the month. So as long as I get and review them, hey, Luna, she's stretching out and reaching out to me at the moment. And she's just jumped off the desk. But yeah, I'm going to do that, 31 movies. I'll put up at the end of the month what they are on the channel. And I'll do a review at the end of the month of how it was to review 31 movies I've never seen before and how that's reset my love of cinema, which hopefully it does. Bedhead said $10. Thank you very much for that, Bedhead. I appreciate that donation. And have a great 2024. Let's see. Did I enjoy The Lost City of Melbourne, Doc? Morris. Yeah, I did. I mentioned it on the channel, and I've seen it, and I got the I think Madman put it out, but I've got the DVD of that. It's a great documentary. Keith says here in the UK starting here in the UK in 45 minutes. The Heroes of Telemark again. Yeah, Heroes of Telemark's one of those movies that used to turn up on Sunday afternoons on TV here in Australia a lot. So Damien says, we noticed that Luna walked out the door. Yeah, she's doing her own thing. She's her own being. Middle-aged Giggle says, I have Jill at my feet hiding from the firework noise. Yep. Dave says, I know this might be a tough question, but do I have a favorite decade for film? That is a tough one, Dave. Just let me think. There are decades I like, and I think decades that shifted cinema. I mean, the 60s were a great decade for changing cinema in every way in every country I know of. And the 40s were great because they had the drama of World War II at the start of it, in the first half of it. And then a lot of the movies in the second half were a reaction to the end of World War II. So the 40s are interesting there. The 50s with the different kinds of paranoia and the moral panics were great. The 70s, where finally American cinema in particular broke free of a lot of censorship, were really great. And then, of course, you've got the 2000s when CGI started being used, and we're still understanding how best to use that in cinema. So many choices of great decades of cinema. And then, of course, you've got the 20s and the 30s when sound came in, and the 40s when color really got good. So, yeah, I mean, I think each decade frames itself by the times in which the movies were made. And so the history of that decade in whatever culture produces the movies is reflected in the kind of cinema we get from those particular decades. Brett says 30s and 30s. Dilly says, oddly enough, the film I saw in the cinema in 2023 that really blew me away was about 95-year-old. Drea's Passion of Joan of Arc. Maria Falconetti's performance is incredible. You want to know something, Dilly? 2024, that very movie is in the public domain. It's one of the movies that is going into the public domain in 2024. Drea's The Passion of Joan of Arc. So if you want to download a copy of that, anybody, after midnight, feel free to, because the movie is owned by everybody starting at the beginning of 2024. Dave says, great answer, Terry. Thanks. Keep going back to the movies from the 70s. 70s is when I started watching movies independently as a teenager. So the 70s I've got a lot of love for as well, because I'd travel 40 kilometers to see a movie if I knew there were going to be naked women in it for a start, and action and horror, or even science fiction particularly. So yeah. Damien says, most of our collections come from the 60s. I'm trying to cover all decades of film. Yeah, I want to cover more 30s. I think I've got a little bit of a lull in my 30s. And so I may well try, as the year progresses, to get more films from the 1930s. Particularly Australian films, if I can find them, because there were a lot, but not many of them come out on physical media. Inanimate Carbon God says, I think most of my collections from the 60s and 70s, but a lot from the 20s as well. So I'll go through this list of movies I found that are going in public domain in 2024. The big one that everybody is having conniptions about is Steamboat Willie, the Walt Disney and Ub Works movie, and which brings that version of Mickey Mouse into the public domain and that version of Minnie Mouse into the public domain. So if people in 2024 want to make an adult film with those particular characters in it, they can, because Disney no longer has the rights to that iteration of Mickey and Minnie Mouse. We've got The Passion of Joan of Arc, as I mentioned. There's The Cameraman by Buster Keaton with Buster Keaton is in the public domain. The Circus with Charlie Chaplin. Joseph von Sternberg's The Last Command, starring Emil Jannings, which is the first Academy Award for Best Actor. That movie gets into public domain. And I did a video about Emil Jannings as well, because he was the first guy to get a Best Actor Oscar. He got it for two different movies because they hadn't nailed down the rules quite yet. And then in the 1940s, he became a Nazi. So the first guy to get a Best Actor Oscar became a Nazi. And I did a video about that very early on the channel, which is kind of interesting. The Singing Fool with Al Jolson, which is a follow-up to The Jazz Singer. Let's have a look. Frank Bozage's Street Angel with Janet Gaynor. Lights of New York with Helene Costello. King Vidor's Show People. The Man Who Laughs, the movie with Conrad Veidt as Gwynplaine, which is the movie that inspired the creation of the Joker, is in public domain. Let's have a look here. The Crowd, King Vidor's The Crowd, which is an incredible film, is in the public domain. And The Dogs of New York, directed by Joseph Sternberg, has entered the public domain in 2024. And there are a whole bunch of books as well, which means anybody can adapt them. So there's things like The House of Pooh Corner, A.A. Milne's sequel to Winnie the Pooh, which introduces Tigger into the public domain. That's why Tigger wasn't in Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Tarzan, Lord of the Jungle's in public domain. J.M. Barrie's Peter Pan becomes public domain. All Quiet on the Western Front. Orlando, a biography by Virginia Woolf, which is made into that wonderful movie with Tilda Swinton, is in public domain. Lady Chudley's Lover is in public domain. The Threepenny Opera by Bertolt Brecht and Kurt Weill becomes public domain. Let's have a look here. What else? The First of the Saint novels with Simon Templar, Leslie Charteris's novels, comes in public domain. The Well of Loneliness, Radcliffe Hall's movie about lesbianism, a book about lesbianism, gets into the public domain. Tons and tons of things are hitting public domain, and I'm sure somebody is going to make a movie about them all. Samantha just jumped over Leela and come onto my shoulder, then back down. Yeah, cats, what can you do, Heather? Inanimate Carbon Gold says, I actually live just about 5 minutes away from where Cinesound Studios at Pagewood was in the 30s. My sister and brother-in-law live near there as well. They're in Maroubra. And I had to show them where Cinesound Studios were in Pagewood, right near the big shopping centre there. So, Inanimate Carbon Gold says, I'm glad most of these films are proper restorations before going public. Absolutely. Darren says, how did Disney not get the copyright period extended again? Guess they're out of favour with the Republicans at the moment. They can only extend it so far, and Disney has a lot of power, but they don't have complete power. So it's going to be an interesting decade. The next decade, Superman gets into public domain. Batman becomes public domain. There are going to be explosions of those two as different iterations of them get created based on those initial works, the initial comic books. So the next decade is going to really see a lot of really powerful intellectual properties hit the public domain. Do I have a favorite Tarzan? Doug says, I really like the later Gordon Scott movies. I've actually got a half prepared video about that, and I'm going to put it out in February. And that will tell you who my favorite Tarzan is. So stick around for that one. Damien says, I had a friend in New Zealand who lived there, loved Western, so we went to every different cinema in New Zealand, saw with him Butch Cassidy, True Grit, and Red Sun, which I love. Yeah, Damien, Disney is losing its power. Hi, Andres. How you doing? How's things over in your part of Europe? Yeah, so Disney are, I mean, they own a lot. And if they lose a little bit of power and start losing their control over Mickey Mouse, which, to be honest, I've been thinking about it, is a pretty ordinary intellectual property because there's not much character to Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse is a Mickey Mouse character. And so I don't particularly think that it's as big a deal as a lot of the media are making out. Yes, there are going to be alternative versions of him, but he's a very bland and kind of milk toast kind of character. Hi, Andy Phantom. Happy New Year. You're in China and just around 6 p.m. here. Good to see you live. Thank you. And thanks for joining the live stream as well. And the chat's going mad. Timothy says, best of all, Sherlock Holmes is completely in the public domain. That's why I wrote a television pilot starring Dr. Watson. Yep. And it is. And I think there have been good and bad iterations of Sherlock Holmes. But I like the fact there are a diversity of iterations of Sherlock Holmes. I know people who are writing queer stories about Holmes and Watson, which is perfectly okay with me. I think that the more stories, the better. Doug says, excellent read, Tarzan. Less said about Jock Mahoney, the better. For those who don't know, he was Sally Field's abusive stepfather. He was. Let's see. Mickey Mouse is more of a symbol than anything. Not seen too many of his shorts. Yeah, I mean, Mickey Mouse, bland. Donald Duck is much more of a character. Absolutely. Donald Duck is, a mad creature. He's a force of chaos. And like Daffy Duck, he's got that manic craziness that people lean into more than they do with Mickey Mouse. If only I had a camera, says middle-aged girl. Luna is stopping me doing my work. She's gone up to your desk and is disturbing you. Carl says Mickey Mouse had a lot more personality in the early comics. That's when he became an adventure hero, a daredevil pilot, etc. David says, wrote a number of articles of Sherlock Holmes on the screen for the Sherlock Holmes mag of Western Australia Society. Ben Ed just did a joke to you, middle-aged geeko. Happy New Year to those on the other side of the big pond, says Garfield. Thank you. And you're in New Zealand, aren't you? So you're in 2024 already, whereas we still have 15 minutes. And Anna McCarbon God said, even Disney's animators got bored with Mickey Mouse. Donald was much more fun for them to do. Yeah, because even with the beak, Donald was more expressive than Mickey Mouse ever was. While you're in Canada, sorry, I apologise, Garfield. So you're not only in the slow part of the planet, but you're cold as well. Here it's not too bad. We've got this kind of mild summer here in Melbourne, which middle-aged giggle loves, but it cheeses me off. I want to get some sweat going, and I want to be able to justify drinking beer in the daytime. So I want a lot more hot weather. But yeah, I mean that public domain thing. The one that I really interests me and which I like a lot is Kurt Weill and Bertolt Brecht's The Threepenny Opera. I love The Threepenny Opera. Lottie Lenya is Pirate Jenny in The Threepenny Opera. Fantastic. Dave says it's 7:45 a.m. here, so we still have some time to wait, and it's cold here. Of course it is. But don't you have a live stream to do soon, Dave? When are you and Stephanie doing the live stream? But Lee says, when I was little, we lived on the edge of a big cow field as part of Shepparton Studios, Water Splash Lane. It's on the something on the porch right now. I've got this heart that sits over the lowest thing on the live stream. Hang on, let me just see what. That's cool. I mean, Shepparton Studios are so iconic. And like the Centre Sound Studios in Sydney, produced a lot of really cool stuff. But yeah, I want to see someone do a really good modern day adaptation of the Threepenny Opera, which they can do now. And there's just so much good music in that. They can't use the English adaptation of it, but the idea and the whole lot of it, and the German music they can use. Now, Dave's in on the east coast of the US. It's 8:46 p.m. in WA. Would love to have a Blu-ray of the Threepenny Opera. Yeah, absolutely. There was a movie called Jack the Knife, which covered some of that. It had Raul Julia in it, which came out in the late 90s, I think. Wasn't an entirely great adaptation of the Threepenny Opera, but it was the best we had at the time. And a Blu-ray release of that would suit me fine. But they did change some of the lyrics, which cheesed me off, particularly on the Ballad of Immoral Earnings and a few other songs. Do I have a favorite short 5-minute cartoon? I've got a favorite short cartoon, which would be Bambi versus Godzilla, which I love. But offhand, I can't think of one, Keith. Yeah, Pirate Jenny's song is fantastic, Lee. I saw middle-aged giggle and I saw B. Arthur when she was still alive, of course, live on stage here in Melbourne. And she did the best version of Pirate Jenny from the Threepenny Opera live on stage. It was chillingly good. But she was fantastic fun on stage, and she sang the Black Freighter song, which was just the best. And she was in the original US cast of the Threepenny Opera on live on Broadway. 29 degrees Fahrenheit is almost minus 2C. Yeah, screw that for a joke. Mine was a Bugs Bunny opera. Yeah, that's where most people learn about opera is from Warner Brothers cartoons. Um, it, it's amazing that they did Wagner's Ring Cycle as a Bugs Bunny cartoon. You got to love those guys who did the Warner Brothers cartoons. They were just so far ahead of the curve and so far ahead of the very middle class, middle of the road Disney stuff that there's a reason why they're so beloved now. Things like One Froggy Evening and the Three Little Bops and all those fantastic cartoons really crap on most of Disney's cartoon output. Yeah, B. Arthur was great in Maine, which was the only good thing in Maine. But yeah, I'm just thinking, is there a way I can incorporate all of those Warner Brothers cartoons into a video for the channel? I might do that. I might do like a listicle, but with a little bit of extra grunt in it. I'm gonna put that down. Another McCarbon God says the funniest thing about What's Opera Dog is that most of the music doesn't even come from the ring cycle. No, it doesn't. Hi, Carol, Richard, and you, and Roxy, watching them from a very stormy Dover in the UK. We just had hail and torrential rain here. Well, at least it's not boring, I suppose. Stay warm and stay safe, you guys. But it's a good place and a time to watch a live stream when you can't do anything outside and the weather outside is frightful. Live streams were made for that kind of thing. Yeah, Middle Aged Giggle says, yep, it's your channel. Do what you like. Yeah, What's Up, a Doc? Three Little Bobs, One Froggy Evening. There are a few of them that are really wonderful, and I can rewatch them often. And when you watch the Three Little Bobs the first time as a kid, it just blows your mind. Doug says classic and subversive Warner Brothers cartoons are timeless. Apparently, the sequel was they aimed at adults, not kids. Yeah. Mystery Man says, I like what Disney is doing in Florida. What are they doing in Florida? Tim says, no love for the Rabbit of Seville. Yeah, that's another one. And Duck Dodgers, of course. There are just so many of them. I'm going to have to do a deep dive into Warner Brothers cartoons. I think it may be a goer for the channel. D. Lee says, Youngings was the second choice for the best actor Oscar. The Nation Academy originally voted for Rin Tin Tin, but decided they'd look silly giving it to a dog. Yeah, you couldn't really do that because dog comes on stage to get the award. Dog pisses on the plinth. Not a good look. Yeah, Fire Moon 42. Bugs and Co. are very much inheritors of the trickster tradition. Yeah, they're transgressive. They're like court jesters who could say things to the king that other people can't. And Warner Brothers knew that, and the guys doing those cartoons were just so clever. Chuck Jones and all of those guys. Heather says, we're in Dover for Christmas 1983. It was cold and rainy. We, of course, were hoping for snow being tourists. The Duck Season trilogy are your favourite Looney Tunes, Carl? Yeah, I can see that. I think it'd be weird to have Christmas in cold weather. I mean, yeah, it's not particularly warm here in Melbourne, but I'd find it freaky to have Christmas in cold weather because I've always, for all of my long, long life, had warm or hot Christmases. Carol says, still finding it amazing we can see you live and interact across the whole planet. Thank you for your reviews. You and Richard have introduced me to a lot of films I wouldn't have watched otherwise. That's exactly why the channel exists, Carol. I want to share the good stuff. There's no use having knowledge and not sharing it and not teaching what you learn because it's a gift you're giving to people because you need to give it to people. And I've learned a lot about movies and about a whole bunch of other things from people who generously shared things with me without charge. And the lovely thing about YouTube in particular is we can share these passions and share what we know and what we love and share the good stuff as we see it with other people. And I mean, finding my best self in a social way, this late in life is both wonderful and tragic. Singing at the popular the state go. Much worse when the baby elephant pees in the studio and plays school. Yeah, I mean, animals in studios, there's always going to be an accident at some stage, and it's only going to get worse and worse. Let's see, we've got 6 minutes. Yeah, middle-aged Geek Girl says Tom Wilkinson died, full Monty dude. Yep. Cold Christmas versus hot Christmas, Tim. Tim says, I think the opposite, but then I've usually lived in New York or Germany or South Dakota. And Doug says, I agree with Carol. I love how interactive this is. So do I. Live streams are great because if I'm making a video, I can edit and you can see the edit cuts when you watch the videos, of course. But this is high wire walking. There's no edit to a live stream. And I've got to remember to not mumble and to slow down when I need to and to address not only the stream but the things I want to say. This is more challenging than it seems, and I love the challenge. And I always feel buzzed after doing a 2-hour live stream, and just how full my head feels with all the input and all of the stuff I've said. It's really a wonderful thing to do, but I don't know whether everybody could do it. And it's a bit like tap dancing. It looks easier than it is. Indie Fandom says, I like to share the good and the bad. You never know how a film will hit you. It's nice when something takes you by total surprise. Absolutely. The first time I can recall that happening in cinema was I was watching Cabaret. I went to see Cabaret. And the bit when Tomorrow Belongs to Me is sung by the young guy and they pull out to like the whole beer garden full of Nazis. And I shouldn't have gestured because the camera's just gone mad. That whole beer garden full of Nazis. That's the first thing that really shocked me in an intellectual way in cinema. Bob Fosse just messing with me. Um, that that stuff is priceless, and those moments stay with us forever. Damien says, "Had bought some interesting titles because of your channel." Thank you, Damien. And yes, I know it's knocking your purse, but movies. Lex Barker, another Tarzan, was also said to have been an abusive stepfather to Lana Turner's daughter. Absolutely, he was. Gary Treasure says, Carol, my son loves how a short while he can speak to the future every New Year. Yep, in 4 minutes, I'm going to be in the future. Keith says, Terry, your live streams are a stage performance, not a movie take. Yeah, they probably are. They're my TED Talks. Cracking open another can of my Naked Life Italian Spritz. Which just Brill. Gigi Galaxy, Happy New Year from New York City. Thank you very much. I like New York. I don't think I could ever live there, but I like New York. Fire Moon 42. I love how it's about word of mouth for film recommendations, and the various channels often feed each other. Absolutely. I will support anybody who does a movie kind of channel that I can. Cinema Dave Media and Movie Chatter and Serial at Midnight. Anybody who puts themselves out there and takes a chance that somebody will listen to what they have to say about movies. I'll support them. I support big movie channels by being a subscriber. I support small ones. I think that we're having a conversation here. And I know that it's a daunting thing for a lot of people to put yourself out there and to talk about what you're passionate about and to put your ugly mug like mine on a screen while you're doing it. I mean, podcasts were easy because it was all voice. Hello, middle-aged gig girl's here. She's going to kiss me at midnight, I'm sure. Yes, she is. You're being sneaky, are you? Damien says, each time I watch Psycho at the end, my hairs and my arms are standing on end. Time to turn on the Eye of Agamotto for protection during the time shift. Angela says, piss myself laughing. Behind you. She's behind you. Dave, thank you. Let's see. We've got another 2 minutes. There's middle-aged girl who does so much to support the channel. The amount of support and feedback and input she has into the channel is truly spectacular, and it doesn't always get recognized. Carol says, I have cousins in Australia. They send me the most Australian Christmas cards I can find. So hot and beachy. I send them snowy ones back. And Gigi says, I'm handsome. Ah, yeah, it's all plastic surgery and monkey glands. Right?
Love of a younger woman.
Yeah, love of a younger woman. She's 17 years younger than me, though I'm aging quite well.
I'm not.
We both are. So we've got 1 minute to go. So I'm just waiting for that to tick over. And we will say Happy New Year to everybody. But yeah, so Damien says, I'm 102. You're not, Damien. I know you're not, because they don't let 102-year-old people work for a living. They don't. Yeah. Anthony, Singapore dollars 20. Thank you. Very happy New Year. Thank you for all your fantastic videos in 2023. 2024, there are going to be more. Thank you very much, Anthony. Let's see. Stay away from monkey glands. I've been watching old Universal horrors, and the glands always get you in trouble. Yeah, my glands have always got me. Here we are. Midnight. Happy New Year.
Happy New
Love you.
Year. Love you too.
Yep. So happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Yeah. Hey, Dave. Ooh, there it is. Yep. Absolutely. Yep. Here we go. I'll give you guys a whole bunch of stuff here on the.
I'll go out.
You gotta crawl out now, are you? She's crawling out ungracefully. But yeah, it's 2024 and no teleportation yet, which is a shame. No immortality yet, which is a bigger shame. I'm going to adjust that camera slightly. I was going to put streamers on there. I was going to get sparklers because I've got a whole bunch of sparklers in a box here, but I thought they might scare the cats. But yeah, Happy New Year to everybody. Yep. I can hear the fireworks in the background, which I hope are not freaking out the cats too much, because that would be a bad thing. Happy birthday, Happy New Year, Lee. Heather says, "Where's my flying car?" You don't get one for 3 hours. You're in Western Australia. Andrea says, 10 hours to go. My doggy is already excited. She loves to stand on the balcony and watch the fireworks. Middle-aged gig girl's back at her keyboard, which is great. But yeah, I'm optimistic for this year. By the way, it's calendar changeover too. And I'll show you my old calendar and my new calendar, because we have calendars that sit up just outside the man cave, which we use sometimes, but not often enough. So the old calendar was incredibly obscure. It's my obscure 11 hours for the UK. It's an incredibly obscure movie calendar. That one with Kiyoshi Atsumi, the guy who played Tora-san in about 40 odd Japanese movies. He played the same character. And so my last calendar for 2023 was a Tora-san calendar, which I love. There's another picture of him. And I love the Tora-san movies. I did a whole video about it. So 2023 was my Tora-san calendar, which cost me incredibly stupid amounts of money to get imported from Japan. Then I got cheaper for this year. And this year's calendar, Game of Trojan, the future is great. It's a little bit Jetsons with just fringy bits of Mad Max. But I've got a 16-month calendar. Snow's coming tonight, so not much chance of seeing the fireworks, Garfield. That's a shame. Nice, Peter. Thank you very much. Just watch the old year dip this week into the Indian Ocean. So the 2024 calendar, Godzilla. I've got a 16-month Godzilla calendar with a whole bunch of Japanese movie posters of Godzilla, which I will show you there. So that's the calendar for this year for me. And yeah, so that's how I went from Kiyoshi Atsumi to Godzilla. So I'm staying Japanese. I may try to do Japanese calendars for a few years and just see how we go. But no, Happy New Year from the slow side of the continent. I've said that. You guys are such a cute couple. You're both very lucky to have each other. We are, Mystery Man. It's great. Yeah, there are troubles and there are struggles like any relationship, but we figure shit out and we support each other in our aspirations as well as the things we need to deal with that aren't so good. And that's the way it goes. Middle-aged good girl watched Fright Night the other day. Enjoyable, yeah. Fright Night's great fun, and particularly Roddy McDowall. Roddy McDowall does some deep level acting in Fright Night. And next time you watch it, just watch Roddy McDowall's character. He is fantastic in that, and much better than people ever really recognize. And that's the thing I've been taking later this year, is watching experienced actors do their thing at a really great level, but not at a showy level. And there are a lot of movies where you see that. And sometimes it's just a little character actor, and sometimes it's a star. But I've really fallen in love with quality acting that gives depth and supports the structure of even an absurd movie really well. And on my other screen here, I've got the fireworks from Sydney, my hometown. It's really weird because on one part of the planet, you got a million people in South Gaza escaping explosions, and in Sydney, you've got a million people around the harbour watching explosions. We live on a weird planet. Tim says, I do not recommend trying to watch a live podcast while you're driving and running errands. If you crash, mate, I'm going to be pissed off with you. Seriously. Middle-aged Geek Girl says, boo, Sydney. You love Sydney. But Ronnie McDowell did a lot with his eyes, especially the Apes films. Yeah, Lee, they make it look easy. And I love the fact that they do that kind of confidence and technique and intelligence of good character acting. Really impresses me increasingly over the years. And you notice it more when you're watching a stage production. Watching somebody in character on a stage is a totally more immersive experience than watching it on cinema. I mean, I've seen a number of the cases where that's the case. I saw several versions of Sweeney Todd, the musical, where the Beetle in particular is terrifying and he stared right at me a couple of times. But yeah, stage stuff, I'm going to have to do more of at some stage. Carol says, looking forward to seeing the Frankenstein films you reviewed the other day, plus the hundreds of other stuff we picked up. Here comes the rain again. Yeah, you live on a little soggy island. It's going to rain now and then. But yeah, yeah, it has been a rough year. 2023 was a rough year. But there were grace moments. At Woodstock, when it was all mud and rain and everything was breaking down and all the systems were breaking down during the Woodstock Festival, Wavy Gravy walked up on stage and said to the entire crowd, there's always a little bit of heaven in a disaster area. And that's what 2023 was. There were little bits of heaven in a disaster area of 2023. And I think we've got to remember that too. Everybody I looked at on Twitter today was bemoaning how bad 2023 was. But there were little wonderful moments. And I think it's important we recognize that while recognizing the shitstorm as well. Carol wants me to review favorite musicals. It's on the short list, Carol. With doing the new movies in January, I won't do it in January, but I really want to do musicals. I really want to hit them and just, it may end up being a listicle with a little bit of expansion on some of the movies, but I will do favorite musicals before Easter. Captor says, foreign language films subtitled or dubbed. I'm definitely a caption guy. I prefer to have subtitled where I can get them. I did see The Boy and the Heron, the Miyazaki movie, in the dub version because that's the version I could see. But I prefer subtitles because I prefer to, particularly with live action stuff, I prefer to have the voice of the original actor who's doing the acting. Whereas dubbing doesn't give you the passion and that kind of meshing up of the movement and the facial expressions and the body and the voice that subtitled acting gives you. Heather says, one of the fab things about the Ealing movies and Hammer was the excellent character actors rounding out the cast and adding so much quality. Yeah, absolutely. People like Torin Thatcher was great, and Michael Ripper was great, and Andre Moreau I really like a lot as well. Just all of these actors who, they were stereotyped to a certain extent in a lot of cases. James Robinson Justice, for instance. But they really knew their stuff and they could deliver a performance that felt grounded and was just the right piece to put in that part of the puzzle. Rain, you mean the constant shower we live under? It's wet and damp and cold here. We should move next year to summer. Yeah, I mean, summer Christmases are great. Barbecues are great at Christmas time. And also you sweat out the alcohol more easily. But month of March is good for musicals, says Damien. That's a possibility. I've got a book where I'm writing down everything. This one. It's my diary for this year, which is my Dungeons and Dragons one. And I'm writing down which video I want to release on which day because I'm trying to get more organized with this stuff rather than leaving it to the last minute. So I've got a video that's due to come out on Saturday. and halfway through Friday afternoon, I'm still trying to work out what I'm going to do. Sometimes I pull it off, sometimes I don't, but we'll just see. Subtitles are 16th century samurai speaking English is so out of place as Garfield. Absolutely. And if you're going to watch, say, Toshiro Mifune in any kind of Kurosawa movie, whether it's Rashomon or whether it's The Quiet Duel, where he plays a modern man, you're going to want his voice and not some American geezer standing in the studio smoking a cigarette. Yep. Ben Ed says, but the series Phantom Agents from Japan works so much better when it's stuff. Yeah, I think there's an episode of Phantom Agents on YouTube if you want to find that. Phantom Agents, for those who don't know, was the 1960s Japanese TV series about a bunch of secret agents who were part ninja in modern setting. And Phantom Agents was dubbed in English here in Australia the same way that the TV series The Samurai was. And Phantom Agents was great because they didn't use guns, they used shuriken and all sorts of other bits and pieces of ninja equipment to beat bad guys. It was a crazy one. Nice Pater says, time for oysters and stout. Now I'm hungry. I could go oysters and stout. We didn't get any seafood this year because my mother-in-law at Christmas time, we can't have seafood at her place because she's allergic to it. And we didn't bother for ourselves. So maybe, early January we should get some seafood. D. Lee says, another good film channel recently discovered was Jerome Weisselberry, not her real name. Yeah, I know. I've actually seen her channel, and yeah, absolutely. She really has a passion for cinema and expresses herself really well. Yep, Happy New Year's, D. Lee. Mystery Man says, I respectfully disagree with everyone. 2023 was a transitional year for COVID. It came out much better than predicted. Has everyone forgotten the lockdowns? Come on, everybody, cheer up. Yeah, I still haven't got COVID. We're still a Novid family here. So, the fireworks are still going on in Sydney, Bend, and I can watch it here. I actually went there one year in the late 80s or early 90s. It might have been the early 90s. And just being underneath those thundering fireworks is an incredible visceral experience. They're much more elaborate now than they were then. But I don't really want to sit around the harbour with a million other people all looking for a place to wee. But yeah, the fireworks in Sydney are next level fantastic. And the harbour, I love. I like the harbour when it's quiet. The best time to go on Sydney Harbour, if you ever get a chance to, go on the Cremorne Ferry at about 6:45 in the morning, and nobody's on the boats yet. And you can cruise across the harbour and go around all these little inlets, and just cruise around there and enjoy the the houses you'll never be able to afford to buy, and just sit there, maybe with a coffee and something you bought for breakfast, and chill out. It's one of the most zen things you can do in Sydney. Damien says, Phantom Agents were planning to do a whole series in Australia, but cancelled in Japan. All the critics in Japan, it was very violent for a 7:30 time slot. David Frey says, which famous dead actors would you have liked to have hung out with and why? Robert Mitchum would have been fun because he always had the good marijuana. And Lee Marvin would have been fun as well. Just shooting the shit with those guys. Jean Moreau would have been fun to hang out with. Ava Gardner would have been fun because she swore like a trooper and she was incredibly beautiful. Who else? Daniel Darrieux, Zizi Jean-Mer, Jean Marais, who was one of the most beautiful looking guys in cinema. He did Orpheus, amongst other things. And all of those guys would have been fun to hang out with. Evil Pixie 96 says, ever since I watched the French movie Nikita, I preferred subtitles. So much of the actor's performance is lost in the dub. Absolutely. And Netflix does it really badly. They've got dubbed versions of a lot of the movies that they produce in countries like Turkey. And if you watch the dub version, the dubbing is third rate at best. And they do that a lot with a lot of the series and independent movies that they do, that they've thrown some money into various countries around the world. They look good. The movies look good, and some of them times they're interesting. But the dubbing is cringingly bad. Inanimate Carbon God says sometimes a really bad film is made better by bad dubbing, e.g., Mad Foxes. Yeah, but I still like to have the option of seeing the original. D. Lee says, have they finished repairing Sydney Opera House after Godzilla clobbered Zilla into it 20 years ago? Yep, it's a sturdy building. It's a sturdy artifact. Yeah, Kyle Bunce, Drinking with Sterling Hayden. Sterling Hayden, if you get a chance to read his autobiography, Wanderer, fantastic writer as well. And he disregarded Hollywood in the best possible way, and he wrote about it with such a lyrical beauty that it stayed with me 20 years after I read the book. Dick Power said, missed a few bits of the live stream when cooking the beef dinner, so we'll watch the uploaded version when it gets posted. Thanks, Dick. People can do that. If you want to revisit any of the live streams, please feel free to, because they are available and they will continue to be available. And I'm very happy for them to be available. Firemoon42 says, have I ever seen A Dark Song? Let me just look it up for you. I don't know that I have. 2016, A Dark Song. I'm going to keep that open because I'm going to try to find a copy of it. Looks like my kind of a horror movie. No, I haven't. Is it recommended? Let's see. Only good dubbing of a film, What's Up, Tiger Lily? Or Hercules Returns. Because the Australian movie Hercules Returns took a Peplum movie, a Hercules movie, and dubbed that as well. It came out, Umbrella brought it out last year, 2023, and they put it out on Blu-ray. And it's a lot of it's a fun dub in the same way What's Up, Tiger Lily is. So I recommend that one for the really Australian dubbing they did on a Hercules movie. A few jars with Oliver Reed. Yeah, that'd be fun. Though Ollie tended to get a bit surly when he was drunk. Middle-aged Geeko says, a reminder that any super chats received tonight will go towards Luna's medical bills. Fireman42 says, there's a genuine occult film disguised as a horror film. Great. Damien says, what would be your best releases on disc? There's so many good ones this year. There's one that I want, but I can't afford yet, which is the 4K of Barbarella that Arrow put out. I may well save my shekels and get that at some stage. But there are a whole bunch of good things come out from Imprint and Umbrella. Umbrella did A Tale of Two Sisters, and I Saw the Devil. I'm really happy with those releases on Blu-ray. What else we got? Talk to Me, the Australian horror movie filmed in Adelaide by the Philippou brothers. I'm really happy with that one coming out this year. And there are a whole bunch of small things that came out on Imprint, things like Dead Heat on a Merry-Go-Round and The Man in Half Moon Street and little obscurities like that. And the second one of the Tales of Adventure box set, which has a whole bunch of jungle adventures in it. It's got some interesting films that people don't talk about now in that box set as well. There have just been so many good things that have come out, particularly in Australia, in the last year. And also the second volume of the Shaw Brothers box set, the big chunky one, I liked. And I've done the gesture again. And also the gonna have to stop that now. And also the Arrow box set of the Charles Band movies in a box shaped like a video store. I like that. I think that was a good one released this year as well. Janet, Happy New Year. Thank you very much. Ned and Janet in Spain. Thanks for coming along. I'm not sure what time it is there, but I'm sure it is sometime. But yeah, so many good things. Garfield, Middle-Aged Geek Girl can help you with that. D. says, thanking Conrad V for his great films and his courage to stand up to the Nazis. So many of those actors who played Nazis, particularly in American films, during World War II and after World War II. People like Anton Diffring fled the Nazis, and they really punched hard in playing those evil characters. If you have a look at the bottom of the chat, Garfield, there's a little dollar sign in a rectangle, and you can click on that and do that. I have G. How you doing? How's the weather in Kansas? Go Trojan. Time check 13:20 in old 2023. It's now 12:20 a.m. here, so we've got another 40 minutes of the live stream. Let's have a look here. Captor, thank you very much, Kitty Cuddles. Appreciate that. Luna appreciates that. We've got to take her to the vet again to see whether we can get the last of the stitches out on Tuesday. And if we can take the cone off her head and we can let her outside. And she is hanging out to go outside and explore the world again. Because she is something, it's below freezing there. I don't like it when it gets below freezing. The coldest I've been was in New Zealand. I was in Upper Hutt in just north of Wellington, and it was minus 8 degrees centigrade, and I couldn't handle it because I'm a warm weather creature. I was raised in Sydney, which is subtropical, and cold weather just messes with me big time. Put the calendar away. The cone has already been extended by 5 days. Yeah, she's had it on for 2 weeks and 5 days. She'll have had it on by the time we take it off, hopefully. And she doesn't like it at all, but she's tolerated it really well. She's a very intelligent cat, and she's very adaptable. She'll spend a day or so not liking something like the cone, but she ends up accepting it. And none of a carbon god, thank you so very much. That's an enormous bump. Thank you. And I appreciate that. And it will go to Luna's medical bills. I'm awed by the generosity and the care. Even people just saying best wishes to Luna means a lot to us because she's agent of chaos most of the time, but she's very, very important to us all. Damien says, I used to live in Lower Hutt with a great local cinema. Saturday afternoon films were great. Yeah. Angela, who's in South Australia, says, fireworks have just started here. Penguin doesn't like it much better. Other two cats don't care. Cats are variable on that. Jill, our other cat, who's black cat, is very sensitive to those things. But Luna is quite sanguine about any disruptions. But yeah. Garfield, you can do either membership or a fixed amount. It doesn't matter. Whatever you'd like to do will be greatly received, gratefully received, not greatly received, gratefully received. I'm not good with this kind of stuff. But yeah, it's been crazy. Just looking after her, and we do that stupid human thing of trying to explain to her in words why things need to happen and why she needs to keep the cone on and all of that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's a weird thing, but she's been putting up with it quite well, and I'll be so happy. I may even do a video of her being released into the wild again, and I'll post that as part of another video on the channel. I think that'd be a nice thing to do for people. The New Year's Eve thing is finished on TV, and now they're showing Whitney Houston, so I've got to turn off that TV. There you go, Garfield. Just follow that link that Middle Aged Geek Girl did, and you can do that. Dealey says Conrad Veidt was told by the Nazis to leave his Jewish wife. He said no. They also asked him to sign a form to confirm his ethnicity, and he put Jewish. Yeah, Conrad Veidt was a tough guy. So many of those actors were, and so many of the people who, even though they fled the Nazis because they probably would have died if they hadn't, they were really people of high moral guts and standing up to the forces of fascism would have been both terrifying and nerve-wracking, and yet they did it, and then they turned it into their art. and all respect to them for that. So many of them, I mean, people like Anton Diffring fled because he was gay, and he knew he would eventually be put in a camp. And just the courage of so many of the people we see on the screen to confront, and people like Peter Lorre and a whole bunch of other actors like that who went to Hollywood and had enormous success. Fled the Germans. Fritz Lang did as well, and Billy Wilder. Just so many. Andreas always talked to my Siberian girl about what we do next. She acts like she understands. Thank you, Andreas. I appreciate that bump as well. And I've got endless love and endless respect for so many of those actors. Pete wasn't in the 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T. That was Hans Conried. In the 1940s, Conrad V died on a golf course in Hollywood. Mystery Man says, what was your first naked girl on film? His was Vanishing Point. She came out of nowhere. On a motorbike, too. Darren says, my agent of chaos is staring in the back of my head from across the room. My first naked girl film. Scorsese movie, Boxcar Bertha. I'll tell the story again. I've told it before on the channel, but with your indulgence, I'll tell it again. I was 15. I went to the Regent Cinema, the Regal Cinema in Liverpool, where I was living. And Boxcar Bertha was on, along with Slaughter with Jim Brown and Stella Stevens. And I knew they were R-rated and you need to be 18 to get in. So I thought, give it a go. And I covered myself in Brood aftershave to make myself smell older. And I went up to the ticket office, really nervous. I went, in the deepest voice I could, 1 ticket, please. And the guy didn't even look up and just gave me a ticket. And after that, I had no trouble getting into R-rated movies that were only you're supposed to be 18 to get into. In most cinemas, I only had one time where I was caught out on it. But yeah, the first one I saw was Boxcar Bertha with Barbara Hershey. And that was the first nudity I saw in a movie with a woman. And I didn't look back. Middle-aged Geek Girl says her first penis in a movie, Edward Fox. Shaka Zulu. Okay. And Timothy's mom was Kerry Snodgrass in Dory and Mad Housewife. Do not recommend that as your first R-rated movie. I've got that on Blu-ray, but I haven't watched it yet. But Kyle says, Mystery Man, quick glimpse of Jane Seymour in Sinbad in the Eye of the Tiger. Yeah, I mean, we always remember that, don't we? We always remember the first time we saw it. I mean, in the meantime, I'd seen it on television because Australian television in the 1970s had a lot of boobs on it. Things like Number 96, a TV series, a soap opera, had nudity in it, and The Box. And they showed the movie that was based on a Roger Ward novel called The Set was shown on TV, and there were lots of boobs and things in that. Carol Bird, 20 quid. Thank you so much, Carol and Richard. You guys donated to the channel already, but that's amazing. Damien says, I had no problem getting into R-rated movies looking older when I was 16. Yeah, so many of those films. And again, thank you to everybody for the generosity here. Game of Trojan said, we had a wonderful Channel 4 in the UK here. I think Jubilee was the movie that went wild. Garfield. Wow. I'm incredibly impressed by that. Garfield, thank you so much, mate. That covers Luna's medical bills, along with the other donations and some other fundraising we did. Fantastic. Yeah, Damien says, number 96 in the box, also the first episode of Matlock. Garrett Trojan said it was Jubilee. Retro Nerd Girl, how you doing? Happy New Year. Retro Nerd Girl, you should check her channel out too, because she talks about lots and lots of science fiction movies and other fine pieces of cinema as well, and horror and nostalgia and TV series and cartoons. Everything is on Retro Nerd Girl's channel. Kyle Bunn, first boobs on TV was Monty Python episode. Happy New Year from Adelaide, just turned midnight here. Happy New Year, Doug, and enjoy yourself there. I've got a couple of movies coming up that because I'm doing only movies I haven't seen before in January. I got one that's not too far away from Adelaide, Doug. I'm going to watch that, Snowtown. Horrible movie, but I'm going to watch it as one of the movies I'm going to do. It says, Mag, I would recommend Saltburn. Saltburn's on either Disney Plus or Prime, so we've got access to that one. I hear good things about it, but I haven't watched it. Okay, we haven't hit the target yet, but we're getting close. And that's okay, Retro Nerd Girl. We're all, in a sense, YouTubers who talk about movies and television are family. We all help each other out where we can. It's not competition. It's part of an ongoing, larger meta conversation. So I'd be stupid not to support other channels because I think people work hard on their channels and people work hard to build their communities and to communicate with other people and to share knowledge and share the love of cinema and TV and everything else. So I always see it as a cooperation between, I even did when I was podcasting. You never compete with other people who are doing what you do. You're collaborating with them in a larger conversation. Darren Bennett says, Adelaide, the weird murder capital of Australia. Yep, Doug, Snowtown's scary because it's true. Yeah, Damien, yeah, absolutely. Cyril at Midnight. Heath is great fun and he's a great person. Snowtown, we actually went to Snowtown, Bennett. Middle-aged geek girl and I were travelling down from Port Augusta to Adelaide, and we needed to take a personal break, and so we rolled into Snowtown. And we just as you come into Snowtown, there's public toilets. So we get there, and there's this really deranged-looking guy standing in the middle of an intersection near us, screaming at us for the whole time we were there. Nice, Peter. Thank you so much. Wow. I mean, oh, thank you all so much. Jenna says, Carl Bunn, those first two were my first nudies too. Thank you, 1970s PBS. But Suzanne York in The Shout. I saw The Shout in cinemas. Great movie. Alan Bates is good in it as well. Who else is in that? Robert Stevenson and Tim Curry, a young Tim Curry in The Shout. If you haven't seen The Shout, you should see it. Go Trojan. Thank you. Be right back, okay? Kyle says, have I ever talked about the Battle of the Cable Hog with Jason Robards? Very unusual and gentle Peckinpah movie. No, I'm trying to find a disc of it because I do like Peckinpah stuff, even second-rate Peckinpah I love. That was the other thing I was going to mention while I'm off on a tangent. Public domain things. Does anybody remember The Killer Elite with Robert Duvall and James Caan singing in a car near the start of the movie before Robert Duvall turns on him and shoots him in the elbow and kneecaps? Duvall and Caan sing a song in the car, and they're giggling with each other, and they're both off their faces. And they sing Ramona, which is a song from the 1920s. And Ramona has just turned into public domain. So that song is now in the public domain. And the moment I saw that, the first thing I thought about was The Killer Elite and Robert Duvall and James Caan improvising a bit of dialogue and singing Ramona to each other. Doug says, I'm waiting for a film on the infamous family murders here in Adelaide in the 1970s. Probably never happened. It may well do. There's a lot of love for that kind of crime stuff. Tim says, haven't seen it in decades, but saw The Killer Elite. Yeah, Imprint put out a nice chunky box set of The Killer Elite with the theatrical version and the director's cut about 2 years ago. And that was really memorable and really wonderful. And I like it. I saw that in the State Theatre in Sydney when it first came out. And I think it's solid action. I don't think it's the best movie Peckinpah ever did by a long shot. It was in one of his later movies when he was in his cups. But I really like it because it's a tough little kind of spy crime drama. Shivoda Ma says, I watched Killer Elite after seeing your vid on it. Loved it. Totally bonkers. I'm glad you liked it. Cool. Timothy, you may be able to get it from Diabolic DVD if you want to get a copy of Killer Elite. Heather says, I'm still scarred from Lee Marvin singing. Don't you knock Lee Marvin singing in Paint Your Wagon. He was infinitely better than Clint Eastwood was in Paint Your Wagon. I love Clint Eastwood. I love Lee Marvin singing Wandering Star in Paint Your Wagon, which is a movie I love anyway. I mean, when they're singing a song about a whole bunch of sex workers in a wagon coming towards a town, that movie just, I love it. Nice Peter says, Haley Mills bottom in The Family Way. Although I think it was Hul Bennett I really fancied. Fair enough. Hul Bennett was a good-looking rooster when he was young. Doug says, so sad we lost James Caan this year. He was an impressive man. Yeah, I think he was either really good in roles or he was bad. He was never in the middle. Retro Nerd Girl says, I have to add the Killer Elite to your watch list. Yeah, do. It's a nice little thing. And it's got interesting actors in it as well, like Robert Webber and Gig Young's in it as well, and Bo Hopkins and Burt Young. Nice little ensemble in that film. Darren Bennett says, I see Madman have released Nitram. I feel conflicted about buying that. Yeah, that was the whole thing. In case people don't know what Nitram is in regarding to. Nitram is a adaptation of Martin Bryant's story. He went down to Port Arthur in Tasmania and shot 35 people in a spree of murder at the Port Arthur prison complex, which was a colonial prison, which was turned into a national park. He went down there and shot 35 people in Tasmania about 2.5 decades ago. And people went savage on him for obvious reasons. That's why we have reasonable gun laws in Australia, because of that massacre. And they made a movie called Nitram about that circumstance. And there was a lot of misinformation as well during the trials and stuff. And one of the many things people didn't know about Martin Bryant was he had the intelligence of an 11-year-old, and he had severe Asperger's syndrome. So when he was shooting the people, he thought he was playing a game. And so his intelligence level and sudden wealth, he inherited some money, meant that he could buy a lot of guns under the old gun laws. And he just went nuts in Port Arthur. But he was one of those people that should never have been given a gun license. Dick Power says, I managed to get the imprint Killer Elite, but find it harder to get the imprint Osterman Weekend. Osterman Weekend sold out really fast. I think Killer Elite's a better movie than the Osterman Weekend. I got both of them. But Killer Elite I like a lot. Andrea says, listen to Lee Marvin singing Wandering Star. Reminds me of Bill Murray singing more than this in Lost in Translation. Yeah, I haven't seen Lost in Translation since it first came out. But I really enjoyed Japan in that, and I enjoyed Scarlett Johansson more than I enjoyed Bill Murray. Soft Dorothy says, at 9:48 p.m. this evening, The Apartment goes on the TV here. It's a New Year's Eve tradition. Yeah, I can see that. I watched The Apartment for the first time last year, 2023, for those on the slow part of the planet. And I was crazily impressed with it. Billy Wilder can do no wrong. And Fred McMurray playing the bad guy. And Shirley MacLaine and Jack Lemmon's rapport. Fantastic film. Middle-aged Geek Girl says, I was at Port Arthur the year after the massacre. It was horrendous. International tourists complaining there was no cafe, but it was burnt down in the massacre. Yeah, it was. Soft Dorothy says, Old Lang Syne comes right at midnight if you time it right. Comes on right at midnight when you're watching The Apartment. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, that's interesting timing. It's like that thing where people were talking about Dark Side of the Moon synchronizing up to watching The Wizard of Oz. Nurse Pater says, Pasolini and the Italians knew how to dub a movie. That weird audio disconnect. Mark Jenkins has been doing something oddly similar in his recent movies. Yeah, I think there's an art to doing it, and I think that some dubs can work. But for the most part, I will go subtitles every time. The first subtitles I saw were really badly subtitled kung fu movies in Chinese cinemas in Sydney, where you'd have a white background on something like, like white marble, and then white subtitles on it. And you could hardly read them, and the prints weren't the best. But I persevered and I learned how to read subtitles. Janet, hey guys, checking out now because it's lunchtime. All the best. Janet, thank you very much for being part of things. Stay dry, you guys. Damien says the apartment is just brilliant. I saw it first on TV in '71. Yeah, all Italian cinema used to be dubbed because they shot them silently. You know about Carbon Drive. There's a scene in 2 Weeks in Another Town where Kirk Douglas's character, Jack Andrews, is dubbing an Italian movie for exactly that reason, and getting the voiceover artist to do it just the way he wanted to was a real skill. Underrated Billy Wilder movie Avanti with Jack Lemmon and Juliet Mills. Yeah, and there's another one called A Foreign Affair. What's that? Yeah, which is set in post-war Berlin and has Jean Arthur and Marlene Dietrich in it. If you can find A Foreign Affair, that one is an eye-opener. Andrea says, neither Murray nor Marvin hit the notes. Lost in Translation is my most watched movie, something like 25 times. Wow. But, yeah, one of the things Lost in Translation does well is it gives you the ambience of Tokyo really well. And it's not something that all Western films do well. Japanese movies do it instinctively, but movies made by Western people in Tokyo don't get it right. The other one that works really well is The Yakuza with Takakura Ken and Robert Mitchum. That one gets the ambience of Tokyo really well. Douglas says, not watching Get Crazy for New Year's Eve. Thanks for the recommendation a while back. Happy New Year. I think I might be now watching Get Crazy. Yeah, I will watch my copy of Get Crazy, but I won't be watching it today. Eureka has A Foreign Affair, damn it. Yeah, I've got it on Blu-ray. And A Foreign Affair is fantastic. Heather says, Dick Power says, we'll be indulging in a holiday tradition watching back-to-back carry-on movies after the live stream. I can think of a lot worse things to do. I like carry-on movies. Heather says, some actors really surprised with their singing voices, but of course it's part of the training. I'm now a Will Ferrell fan for Eurovision film and Spirited. Ryan Reynolds too. Yeah. I think Will Ferrell wasn't great in Barbie, but apart from that, I like him. Soft Dorothy says, Lost in Translation is a nice small film. Not enough small films are made these days. I think they are, but they're on streaming services. So you've got to not try to look to cinema for small films. And there are things that sneak through. There's a thing called Call Me Chihiro, a small Japanese film, which is on Netflix, which I recommend, about a woman who used to be a sex worker who moves to a small town and starts working in a bento shop. That one surprised me. Small film, low-key, interesting characters. Gamma Trojan says, right now I do need to go and finish the Survival Bunker. What's left of 2023? I hope it's not needed for 2024. Thanks for being part of the live stream, Gamma Trojan. Anything you can do to be part of the conversation, I appreciate. Have a great 2024. I played a dinner for one with Freddie Frinton, New Year's Eve program at SBS every year. It was on last night at 6:30. I watched it live on SBS On Demand. If you haven't seen Dinner for One, it's this. I meant to talk about it. It's this 15-minute play with an old butler and his 90-year-old woman he works for, pretending that all of her old friends are still there for her 90th birthday. And so the butler's got to play all the roles of these four friends who come to Miss Sophie's 90th birthday. It's hilarious. I know it's really popular in Germany, but I watched Dinner for One with Freddie Frinton last night before midnight, and it's a lot of fun to watch. And it is definitely a New Year's Eve tradition. I'm going to actually give you guys a link to it because I did watch it on YouTube again after I watched it on SBS. I'll just go into my history and grab it because Dinner for One is just such fun. Here it is. Cool. Let me not make noise with it. But I'll post Dinner for One here. Same procedure as every year. Yep, Inanimate Carbon God. There's your YouTube link. People watch it after the live stream. It's a lot of fun. Yep, Robert Mitchum could sing Night and Hunter. I've got the Robert Mitchum Calypso album on vinyl, where Robert Mitchum sings like 12 Calypso songs. And I love it. And it's got this great cover of Robert Mitchum sitting on a table with a glass of rum and a beautiful girl in the background. If you haven't heard the Robert Mitchum Calypso album and you've got a Spotify or something like that, you should look it up. It's a lot of fun. I've actually got an autographed picture of Robert Mitchum in the hall, hanging on the wall. Yep, Inanimate Carbon God. It's run on SBS every New Year's Eve since 1989. Yeah, Dinner for One is just mad wonderfulness. And if you haven't seen it, I recommend you do. Heather says it's fantastic. Inanimate Carbon God likes it. Soft Dorothy says 1, 2, 3. Love the couple of Cagney references they slip in. Yeah, 1, 2, 3 is a great movie. Another great Billy Wilder one. But yeah, I recommend everybody watch Dinner for One on New Year's Eve if you're still in the old part of the world, or on the 1st of January if you're not. It's a lot of fun. Middle-aged geek guy, you should watch it. D. Lee says the Mission is a good documentary I saw at the festival a while ago. It's getting a lot of positive reviews. It's about John Chow, a young will-be missionary, and uses animation. Recommended. Is that the guy that went to North Sentinel Island and the Sentinelese killed him? Retro Nerd Girl says, I can't wait to watch Dinner for One. I bookmarked it. Yep, there's a little intro in German, Retro Nerd Girl, but then it gets into Freddie Frinton and May, whatever her name is. Hang on, I'll get her name. I've got it here. Dinner for One, May Warden and Freddie Frinton, with a German intro by Heinz Piper. It's a lot of fun. Carbon God says, I have precisely no sympathy for John Chow. What a clown. Yeah, in case people don't know, the North Sentinelese Islands, they're in the Andaman Islands. Their island, they don't let anybody on the island. Anybody comes near them, they'll kill them. They're very primitive. They're on spear and net technology. And they live on their island. And if anybody comes near them, they will attack them. And this mad American missionary guy decides he's going to go there and convert them to Christianity. And sure enough, the Sentinelese, who are protected by Indian law, attacked him and killed him because that's what they do to strangers. They don't want any interference in their culture. Now, I think their population is decreasing for what we understand from what people can see from flyovers and drone footage, but it's their place and they've got a right to determine who goes there and who says what to them. Andrea says Dinner for One runs here in Germany since the 60s, every New Year's Day. It's funny even if you rewatch it for the 20th time. It is. Dinner for One is great. And Freddie Frinton's acting and physical acting is something superb. His timing and his pace. And both of them, it's a two-hander. Both of them are marvelous. Kyle says, doesn't The Thin Man end with a New Year's Eve toast on a train? That would be a great New Year's Eve movie. It's a great movie to watch anytime. Thin Man, I mean, William Powell and Myrna Loy. Just magic chemistry with those two. Absolutely, Inanimate Carbon God. One of the reasons we shouldn't contact the Sentinelese is diseases will spread among them and probably kill them because they're an isolated population who don't have the immunity to diseases we have immunities to. So we're heading into the last 10 minutes of the live stream, which has been a great one. This is fun. I'm going to do this every year as long as I can, unless I get a better offer, which I doubt I will. But anything people want to say, anything people want to do for the last 10 minutes, any questions people want to ask me. Happy to answer them. Yeah, it's been a fun live stream, Damien. It still is. And it's challenging as usual. But I'm just going to reiterate. January, I'm going to watch 31 new movies, and I'm going to review them all on the channel. That's my challenge for January. Whether I set a challenge for February or any subsequent month, who knows? The future's a mystery. But I'm looking forward to that challenge because there's a lot of movies I should watch, but I get sucked into that trap of watching things I know and are comfort movies for me. So I'm going to break free of that for January if I possibly can, at least to the extent of watching 31 movies. Life is a mystery, and none of us are Sherlock Holmes. But have I got any drink left? I need some drink. But yeah, this live stream is arguably the best one yet. Either I'm getting better, or you guys are getting better, or all of us are getting better at doing these live streams. And Middle Age Geek Girl, of course, is always fantastic, moderating the live streams and keeping me on track. And anybody who wants to send Middle Age Geek Girl some love, congratulate her on the chat because she really deserves it. You're wonderful, and I may even take you out for a burger run after this if we could. Lisa and the Fox Fairy. I'm not sure what Lisa and the Fox Fairy is. Let me look that up too. "2015 Hungarian black comedy film." I'm keeping that bookmark open too. Ben Ed says, "I aim for 3 unseen movies a week amongst the rewatches." Not an invalid thing to do. I think it's perfectly legit to do that. I think keeping yourself fresh is what it's about. There are time. Kyle, thank you very much. Nap time for me. Bye, and thanks for the chat. Anytime you want to join a live chat, Kyle, whether you donate or not, I'm always happy to have a chat. Retro Nerd Girl, congratulations on a great stream, Middle Aged Geek Girl. Trying hard to keep me in line is a very hard job. Did you like the bags you sent? Yes, I did. Thank you, Damien. And the movie as well, of course. Soft Dorothy says, 2024, and I'll still be dragging my wife through 1,001 films to see before you did. Darren, wow, thank you so much. You guys are awing me, and I'm running out of useful words to say thank you, but thank you. You guys are the best. It's fantastic. Mystery Man, fasten your seatbelts, we're in for a bumpy ride. It will end well, wait and see. Yeah, I'm optimistic about 2024. I think there's some changes, lifestyle changes, Middle-aged Geek Girl and I want to make this year, which will hopefully have a good result. And it's we're really optimistic about the future and about things improving in the world. We had a big bump in 2023 here in Australia where the referendum recognising Indigenous people didn't go through because Rupert Murdoch's empire basically blitzed the media and spread incredible amounts of disinformation about it. So I was incredibly disappointed that the referendum for Indigenous recognition didn't go through. We were hit pretty hard by that here, amongst other things in 2023. But the Indigenous people of Australia are resilient as hell. And here's Luna and Middle-Aged Geek Girl. Over this side's probably better.
No, this side.
Right? This side, yeah. There you go. There's Luna. There's Middle-Aged Geek Girl. Grant, you two are great, and I'll learn a lot from your videos. Keep doing great things. We will. And thanks to everybody. I'm going to keep this going for another 6 minutes. Yep, there they are. Luna's going to climb down now. She's on the mend. She really, cats are resilient as hell.
Thank you, everybody.
But yeah, cats are resilient as hell. It's amazing how fast they heal if you give them some TLC and the right treatment. But yeah, she's an amazing cat, and we've been so lucky with the 3 cats we've had together. They've all been, each in their own way, terrific companions and terrific supporters of us emotionally, and just wonderful parts of the family. Michael Caine singing in the Muppet Christmas Carol was unexpected. Yeah, and then a couple ago, John Pilger died. John Pilger was a truth speaker here in Australia who really uh, spoke truth to power. Shafota Mars, thanks so much for great vids. Exposed me to many films I would never hearts of otherwise. Thanks, Middle Aged Geek, for excellent moderation. Speed recovery, Luna. Happy New Year to all. Yep. Let's be optimistic about it, because I think part of it is, if you have an optimistic outlook on any particular year, your odds skew slightly towards it that being true. And even in your small realm that you can control, you can make it more true than it would be otherwise. Yes, life will throw shit at you at various times. It inevitably does. But helping each other be resilient is the way through that. Drew Albright, sorry late to the party, but hi, I love the channel. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Drew. Thanks for joining us even for the last bit. Richard Hart says, cats don't give a damn, they just carry on. I think our cats are very empathetic in a lot of ways, but they are very self-reliant too, which I love about them. Ben-Ded, thanks to both of you and all you do. Best wishes for the new year, 99. Take care, Ben-Ded, and thanks for being part of this. David Fraser, Happy New Year to all. Thank you, David, and thanks for the support of the channel. 5min42, thanks to yours and Mag's input and good vibes to Luna. Andrew says, hope Luna pulls through. She'll pull through. It's just the last bit of that infection where she was torn open that we've got to deal with and keep her from licking. So she's definitely on the mend. If cats give a damn, they wouldn't be cats. I think cats give a damn if you don't make too many demands on them. If you let them have their own natures and you support them in having their own natures, and you don't tease them and you don't play with them in a rough way, and you don't yell at them, I think cats are incredibly sanguine and comfortable companions. But let's see, we've got 3 minutes left, so I'm going to round this up. I'm going to do profound for a moment. Having this channel is fantastic for me and for Middle Aged Geek Girl. Leaving aside donations and AdSense revenue and Patreon and all those other things, just the intellectual exercise of finding something to say about something I like, and finding new things to say about new things I like, and old things that I'm passionate about, and going on the discovery of finding new movies, and Luna's back on the desk now, is for me a wonderful thing. I mean, I've retired from full-time work and I've found another career talking about movies to people who are passionate about them like I am. And Middle Aged Geek Girl supported me in that, and Luna and Jill have supported me in that. And many, many people I didn't know were friends until I met them online have supported that. We live in an extraordinary time when we can do that, when we can communicate our passions across vast distances and find like-minded people and find companions and find people who teach us things and from whom we can teach things. It's a truly extraordinary time in which we live. And yes, all of these technologies and instrumentalities can be used in a negative way, but the best way we can combat that is by using them in a positive way. So yeah, it's truly weird and wonderful times to live in. And keeping the conversation going and keeping that passion going and just listening as much as talking is a fantastic thing that we learn from. I mean, I used to be a lot more sarcastic to people I disagree with in the comments, but I've learned to be a lot more measured in the way I do that these days. And I can disagree without kicking someone in the guts when I do it. Learning those kind of things has been really useful for me. And I totally appreciate the patience people have had with me over many years and the passion with which people respond to what I put out there looking for an audience. So On that note, thank you to everybody who supports the channel in whichever way you do. It is Middle-Aged Geek Girl again. And thank you to everybody who's been part of the live stream. And thank you to this mad woman here. I hope you all have a fantastic 2024 and that we all get a little wiser, a little smarter, a little better at being our best selves than we have been in the past. We're all on a journey and we hope it's upward. So I'm going to leave it there. Thanks a lot. Everybody have a fantastic 2024. And I really appreciate the friendship and the support and the kindness of everybody on the live streams. Take care of yourselves. End.